You're listening to a CNA podcast. This year, something happened in Indonesia that has never happened before.
More than 900 officials elected from regional polls in November were sworn in by President Prabowo today. The mass event was the first of its kind.
Did you catch that? 961 elected officials were sworn in by Indonesia's top leader at the same time back in February. Now, let me break it down for you. 33 governors, 33 deputy governors, 363 regents, 362 deputy regents, 85 mayors and 85 deputy mayors from 481 regions. Now, some say the mass inauguration ceremony was meant to convey a message of solidarity, that the central government wants all regions to be in alignment to ensure the success of its programs. And here's how our correspondent framed it.
Analysts say the historical inauguration could be a result of the central government requiring better synergy across the board in order to run their programs efficiently.
But synergy may be a tall order when you're dealing with so many people with power. There are now calls for greater central governance after some eyebrow-raising regional schemes recently. I'm talking about vasectomies in exchange for cash and an island for stray cats. I'm Teresa Tang. We're going to get into all of that in this episode with one of CNA's Indonesia correspondents, Kiki Siregar. She joins me now. Hi, Kiki. Nice to speak to you again.
Hi. Nice to be back, Teresa. Thank you for having me.
I think a good place for us to start is if you could give us a quick 101 on how governance in Indonesia works. Break down the structure, maybe explain President Prabowo Subianto's relationship with these hundreds of regional heads.
So Indonesia is an archipelago and it consists of 38 provinces. Every province, apart from Yogyakarta, is led by a governor and a deputy governor. And within a province, you also have regencies led by regents and deputy regents. And then you also have mayors and deputy mayors. So it's a lot of local leaders. And as you mentioned, back in February, about 961 local leaders were inaugurated. And they were actually elected back in November by the people.
So what's the relationship with Prabowo?
Well, Prabowo is the president of Indonesia, and he has his own grand mission. So even though local leaders can have their own schemes and they have the autonomy to create their own programs, they always need to bear in mind what Prabowo wants for Indonesia when they create their own programs.
Okay, so even though the president holds significant authority, these regional leaders, they still have ample room to maneuver, maybe pursue their own goals. And they do this because, quite frankly, they need to remain popular so they can get reelected, right? Kiki, tell me about some of these unconventional schemes that some leaders have come up with. And I know one of them involves vasectomies in exchange for social aid. What is happening?
Yes. Well, there are many initiatives and programs already run at the moment by the so-called local leaders. The governor of West Java is actually a very popular leader. He's huge on social media. And the reasons, or one of the main reasons why he is popular is because he has come up with controversial schemes, so to say. So, for example, he has come up with this scheme that children or teenagers who are deemed as delinquent need to undergo a 14-day boot camp. So these are junior high school students and high school students who are deemed delinquent because they've been skipping classes or not doing their homework. And this is controversial because the military boot camp is run by military personnel and the national police. So some argue this is against human rights and it's not really the best way to educate children.
Oh.
Yeah. So really interesting. But he also has another program, as in the governor of West Java, Deddy Mulyadi. West Java is actually the most populous province of Indonesia. So it has 50 million people. So you can imagine there are many problems. So 50 million people and about 7.5% of them actually live in poverty. So to combat poverty, to eradicate poverty, Deddy Mulyadi thinks that husbands who want to receive social handouts must undergo vasectomy so they don't have more children and increase poverty. And this is obviously very controversial because a lot of people are saying this is against human rights. Deddy Mulyadi, the governor of West Java, says it's not mandatory to undergo a vasectomy. So it's only for people who want to undergo a vasectomy. And should you want one, you will actually get about 500,000 rupiah, which is equal to around 30 US dollars. Not a lot, actually. So analysts told me it's not surprising that local leaders come up with weird schemes because they need to ensure they're popular and they need to do it within the first 100 days so people know them. And this is what Trubus Rahadiansyah, a public policy expert from Jakarta's Trisakti University, told me.
Such programs could significantly affect their popularity. This must be done early so the public is convinced they have a good leader who keeps his campaign promises. If the leaders introduce programs later on, the public may not be bothered anymore to learn about their programs.
I want to talk about that vasectomy program a little bit more. How was that received by the public? Was it successful? Did the president have anything to say about that?
Well, some Islamic leaders and ministers are actually against it, saying it's against human rights. It's a form of discrimination, so to say. But Deddy, the governor, argued, well, again, it's not an enforcement, and it's also a way to ensure that family planning is not just solely put on the burden of women, but also on men, the husbands.
And other programs that caught my eye and also that our colleague Nivel Rida covered include creating a so-called cat island to help keep the feline population in check. That's interesting. And this one too, having civil servants take selfies to show they're helping the environment by taking public transport.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So apart from West Java, neighboring Jakarta, the capital also has a lot of issues. Jakarta has a population of about 11 million people, and it also has a huge population of stray cats. According to the local government, there are around 860,000 to 1.5 million stray cats in Jakarta, and they're really just everywhere. Wherever you go, you just see these cats. I don't know why. And even though there are other problems Jakarta is facing, the governor, Pramono Anung, thinks these stray cats problems need to be faced immediately. So he is coming up with a suggestion to move all the stray cats to an island, still part of Jakarta, called Lesser Tidung Island. And he says this could be successful because the island could be a new tourist destination, a so-called cat island tourism destination. And he says something similar is in place in Japan, and it will create new economic opportunities for people living on Lesser Tidung Island. But of course, you always have people who are against certain plans, especially if it's quite odd, like this one. Mm-hmm. There are environmentalists who say the cats could possibly destroy the ecosystem, they could harm the environment, and certain animals already living on Tidung Islands, like certain specific birds, could not live well with all these stray cats. So Jakarta's Governor Pramono Anung also came up with the plan that civil servants should use public transportation every Wednesdays to tackle Jakarta's huge traffic problem. And to ensure that the 50,000 civil servants actually obey, they need to take a selfie while they're on the public transport.
How has that been going? Have people been doing that?
It seems yes, because I've been seeing civil servants posting on their social media selfies of them on public transport. But so far, there's also no sanction for this. So who knows? Maybe some obey, some don't.
So from vasectomies to Cat Island, I'm wondering what President Prabowo thinks about all of these different programs. You know, do they align with what his vision for Indonesia is? Does President Prabowo have a clear vision?
Yes. President Prabowo has his own vision and mission called Asta Cita, which are 8 big mission and visions for Indonesia. They include strengthening democracy, creating jobs, strengthening human development, and also accelerating the downstreaming industry, for example. So analysts told me local leaders should always bear in mind all these mission and visions of President Prabowo when they create their own programs, because at the end of the day, their goals, the local leaders' goals, should be aligned with the national government's goals. Economist Muhammad Faisal from the Center of Reform on Economics, or also called CORE, said Indonesia is facing huge economic problems at the moment, and the local leaders should always bear in mind what the central government aims to do.
Jadi program-program yang sifatnya.
The main problem at the moment everywhere is economic problems, from lack of jobs to eradicating poverty. Each region faces these problems. The role of regional heads is not only to target short-term populist programs or quick wins, but they should solve the roots of the problems in their regions.
Experts, they're saying there needs to be greater collaboration, greater consultation between the central government and regional leaders, but it's kind of hard to move in that direction, right? What's being done to get there? What stands in the way to achieving this kind of unity?
Well, first of all, analysts say local government should come up with schemes and always consult the Home Affairs Ministry whenever possible, because they are under the Home Affairs Ministry. This is to make sure that whatever program they have in mind would align with the national government's program. And they should also always bear in mind that their plans should be evidence-based. So, for example, if we take the 14-day military boot camp in West Java as an example, before actually implementing such programs, local leaders should always consult consultants and have evidence that whatever they have in mind would actually work and not just come up with random programs out of nowhere. And they also need to bear in mind, Indonesia is facing economic problems. Prabowo's aim is actually to grow the economy to 8% by the end of his term. That would be in 2029. That's a huge ambition because for the past few years, Indonesia's economic growth is actually just about 5%. And actually, the first quarter of this year, Indonesia's economic growth is less than 5%. It's just 4.8%, around 4.8%. So analysts said they always need to remember that there are bigger goals and not just strive to come up with populist programs. And whenever possible, also work together. So for example, the Jakarta government could work well with the West Java government because they're neighboring provinces, so to say. And it's quite clear that both governors have their own ideas and are quite ambitious in implementing certain schemes.
A pretty intriguing, complex story, Kiki. Very creative as well, some of these schemes. Thanks very much for coming on to talk about it with us.
Thank you, Teresa.
And Kiki is a correspondent on our digital team. She has filed so many interesting reports from Indonesia. Just head to cna.asia to find them. And a reminder, TV episodes of CNA Correspondent air every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Singapore, Hong Kong time. If you miss it, just head over to our YouTube page. I'm Teresa Tang. The team behind this episode is Saya Win, Clara Ong, Tiffany Ung, Junaini Johari, Pei Ning Ho, and Craig Dale. Thanks very much for listening.